Hi, good afternoon. My name is Julia Nusbaum. Today I'm going to discuss with you family systems theory. I hope you'll all enjoy my presentation. Give me just a minute to get my PowerPoint up, and I will go through the presentation with everyone. Thank you. So let's get started and go over family systems theory. The history. In 1960s, Murray Bowen was actually credited with developing the family systems theory. Bowen established Georgetown Family Center at Georgetown University, where he began research into families. He used his concepts on his own family and did a study of them, which I found very interesting. Now, prior to this, even though he was given credit with developing the theory, the concepts of family systems theory actually emerged in the 1920s. Ernest Burgess referred to family as a unity of interacting personalities in a presentation to the American Sociological Association. Ludwig von Bertalanffy began development of the basic ideas supporting general systems theory, and Waller discussed how the family is a closed system of social interaction in his classic textbook. So even before the theory was officially developed by Mr. Bowen, these concepts were already emerging. The premise of the family systems theory is that the family is not just a conglomeration of the members that make it up. The family is a living, breathing entity. The family has its own rules and hierarchy. All of the members that make up the family are defined by their role within that family. So the family is a system of social interaction. Each member, like an ingredient, mixes with the others and makes the end product. So for example, think about when you make a cake. You dump all your different ingredients into a mixing bowl. So you have eggs, butter, milk, flour, baking powder. Then you mix them all up, put them in a pan and bake them. And what you get in the end is something completely different than all those individual ingredients you put into that mixing bowl. When you think about family systems theory, you also need to think about when problems arise, you don't focus on the person or the problem, but on the way the family communicates, interacts, and resolves the problem. And I've got a link to a short video here about communication. Now let's talk about some of the basic assumptions associated with this theory. The first is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So a family is a natural social system. It's not just a group of people. The locus of pathology is not within the person, but is a system dysfunction. So locus of pathology basically means the location of the problem. So the location of the problem is not within an individual person. It is actually the system the person is part of that is dysfunctional, not the person. Circular causality guides behavior. So it doesn't matter what you're fighting about. It's more about the pattern of interactions that matter. Rules result from the redundancy principle and are critical in defining a family. So repetitive patterns of interaction by which a family live create the rules. Feedback loops guide behavior. So this is basically the way a family system corrects itself. They either use negative or positive feedback. An example of this would be if one of the children in the family got a speeding ticket and the parents then grounded them for a month, they weren't able to drive because they got the speeding ticket. That would be an example of negative feedback that would hopefully help the family system correct itself and correct that person's behavior. Pathological communication contributes to relationship problems. So this is talking about various unclear communications. For example, beating around the bush when you're talking to somebody, as opposed to just getting to the point and telling them what the problem is. You just speak in generalizations and you never really come out and say what it is you want to say. Also, I may clearly be annoyed about something, but when my husband asks me, I'll say that nothing's wrong. So he's left not knowing. He either has to believe that nothing is wrong or just worry because I'm not telling him. This also, when you think of pathological communication, say for instance, I react really strongly every time my husband comes in late. I get mad, we fight, he doesn't know why. It's possible that I could have had an experience earlier in my life. For example, maybe I was waiting on a parent or a friend to come over to my house and they were late, they didn't show up, and I found out they'd had a car accident, and it scarred me for life. And now my husband has no idea that that happened to me, and I react to him angrily, and I never explain why, and he doesn't understand. So we continue to go on this repetitive behavior, this cycle of fighting. Whenever something happens, he doesn't understand why. I don't explain. So I blame him, he blames me, and we never really get down to the issue of what happened and deal with that. All family members take on roles. So everyone in a family has a role. Someone may be an enabler. You may have someone who's just a bystander. They never really get involved. You may have the oldest sibling who's considered the hero. They always swoop in and save the day. And family types are based on the rigidity of family boundaries. So 3 types of families. You have open families. These are very democratic. Outsiders are welcome. They share information and energy with the environment. Then you have the random family. The random family has no boundaries. The members are very disengaged. Then you have the closed family. These members are completely enmeshed in each other's lives. They do not interact with the environment. They keep everything inside. Their boundaries are tight and closed up. They do not share information with the environment or take information from the environment. Outsiders are not welcome. And that always makes me think of like cults, for example, when you see on the news about the really the cults that are very keep everyone enclosed in their compound, and they don't let them read the papers or watch the news. They control the information that they have, and they don't let anyone know what's going on. That makes me think of a really closed family. Now we'll talk about the family systems theory concepts. The first is system, and you can see here a little picture of a system and a boundary, and the environment on the outside. It's called surroundings here, and we're going to go through the first 2 here. So a system is a set of objects that relate to each other. Then you have a boundary, or the lines of demarcation of the system. They also allow energy to flow between the system and the environment. So think of the boundary sort of like a fence, and you can see it in this picture, and it just separates the system from the environment, but it also lets stuff flow in and out. You have hierarchy. Hierarchy is basically the arrangement of layers according to delegation of power. This is no different than you would see in, say, a corporation, where you might have a CEO who's the most powerful, and then say a president who's the next most powerful, a vice president who's underneath him, and the power, is delegated down all the way. You have entropy. Entropy is the natural tendency of a system to move from order to disorder. So an example of this would be a marriage that the wife and the husband do not work on the marriage. They don't communicate. They don't pay any attention to their marriage, and it falls apart. That is the natural tendency of a system to go from order to disorder. If you don't pay attention and you don't take care of the system, that's what will happen. You have family rules. And again, these are the repetitive behavioral patterns of the people in the family. They sort of dictate the rules. You have feedback. Feedback is the response of one person in the family to the behavior of another. And again, we talked about that earlier with the negative feedback and positive feedback. You have equilibrium. This is the balance between stability and change. You have circular causality versus linear causality. And this is, so let's think about circular causality. That is when we look for the reason of what is going on, as opposed to focusing on what is actually occurring. I'm sorry, I just said that backwards. The linear causality is when we look for the reason. So we're looking for somebody to blame. We're looking for why everything is happening. You know, what event happened that started this argument or this fight. That is linear causality. Circular causality is when you're actually focusing on what is occurring. So the way we're reacting to each other and the way we are responding to each other, as opposed to the why. Identified patient is when you have one person that's identified as the cause of a problem in the family. And a lot of times this person may be sent to therapy to work out their issues, as opposed to the entire family addressing the issue. You have double bind, and a double bind is sort of the same thing as a catch-22. An example would be, let's see, if I ask my husband if I look fat in this dress, and my husband, it doesn't matter what he says, I'm going to be mad, so he can't win. That's an example of a double bind. If he says, no, I don't, and I know that I do, I'm going to be mad. If he says I do, then obviously I'm going to be mad. So regardless of what he says, it will probably end badly. Then you have family cohesion. And this is the degree of closeness or emotional bonding that family members have for one another. You can have disengagement where the family members are completely out of each other's lives. They don't have anything to do with each other. Or you can have enmeshment, which would be the extreme opposite, which is where they're completely enmeshed in each other's lives. And last, we will talk about mutuality, which is found in open families in which everyone is accepted and loved despite their differences of opinion. So it doesn't matter if you agree with me or don't agree with me. If you're in a completely different political party, it doesn't matter. You're accepted and loved in this family. We don't care about any of that. And then family flexibility is the family's adaptability to new and or stressful situations. And they may be inflexible, or they may be very flexible. They may be very easily adapt to stressful situations and things that are going on. And there's another video there about flexibility that I thought was really cute that you can take a look at. Now we're going to talk about the application of the theory. So this theory is very useful in clinical situations. It's used a lot in family and couples therapy. By applying the concepts of the theory, the individuals involved can examine the situation in a different light. The individuals can identify the issue or issues. They can then look at what it is actually causing the negative feelings. Is it actually the other person, or is it sort of the way a message is being delivered, or a question that's being asked, or is a task being completed or not completed that's causing the problem, as opposed to looking to blame the other person. They can begin to see the circular causality, which we spoke about earlier, seeing how they interact instead of what they are discussing or arguing about. Next, they can look at the feedback loops and the pathological communication. So, do they need to focus more on positive or negative feedback? Um, and they can examine the unclear ways they communicate as well. Like, are they saying everything is fine when it's not? Are they giving generalizations about an issue instead of clearly stating what's wrong? Are they beating around the bush? Or are they actually talking um, to their partner or the other family member? And here you can see a depiction of a family system. Once it's accepted that the way the individuals react to one another is more important than the topic or the actual situation, the individuals can begin to work on these things and improve their relationships. For instance, it doesn't matter what is in the circle where the money is. This could be children, it could be money, it could be jobs, it could be house, it could be anything that in this instance, the husband and wife are fighting about. Um, but what you would want to focus on is those lines connecting the circles, not what's in the circles. So you're not going to focus on Kelly. You're not going to focus on Mark. You're not going to focus on the money. You're going to focus on the way they interact with each other and talk about these situations. So here we're going to do a little exercise. So what I want you to do is think back about the graphic. And here it is again. And I'm going to read the example below. And when I do that, I just want you to write a short note. It doesn't have to be long. Thinking about this example and talk a little bit about the difference in linear causality and circular causality. So here's the example. You have a husband that asks his wife what the balance is in their savings account. The wife angrily replies, "Why? Why are you asking me about the savings account? I had to pay some medical bills and for a plane ticket recently. I haven't put as much money in savings as I usually do." And she's very angry. The husband's very taken aback. He was just curious about the amount of savings. Um, his truck's getting old. He was wondering if there would be enough in savings, to use for a down payment or pay for a new truck outright, whatever the case may be. He doesn't understand why his wife is angry. So instead of arguing with her, he just walks away. He doesn't say anything else to his wife, and he's a little mad also. So when she asks him later what's wrong, he tells her nothing. Nothing's wrong. He continues not to talk to her, and she doesn't talk to him either. So now you have a husband and wife who are both angry, and neither of them are talking about what's going on. So I'll give you a minute just to jot down the difference in circular causality and linear causality using this example. So here is my assessment. The husband may say he is quiet because his wife gets mad when he mentions their savings. The wife says she is mad because her husband's always asking her about the savings account. This would be linear causality, right? Each one is sort of blaming everything on the other or the actions. They're looking for the cause to the problem. So in reality, there are circular feedback loops, and the beginning or cause cannot be identified. So you want to focus on what's happening between the two, not why it's happening. So instead, you might want to talk about, why is the husband asking about the money? Does he not trust the wife? Does he think she's not putting, does he have an issue with the way she's spending money? Or is it really just because he wants to buy a truck, right? And then the wife is going to want to talk about why is she so offended and defensive when her husband asks her about the money? Does she feel bad? And maybe she does. Maybe there's something that happened. Maybe she used to work and make a lot of money, and now she isn't. And this is the first time she's ever not had her own income. And so she's very defensive. She feels guilty for not working. She doesn't know how to deal with not having her own money. And she feels that anytime her husband says something about the balance in the checkbook or where they're going, that he is complaining or beating around the bush. because of the way she spends or the way she handles the finances. So as you can see, they can continue to try to figure out what the problem is, or they could actually just look at their reactions and talk about that and begin to react to each other differently and resolve the problem. So now we're going to look at a comparison of family systems theory and family development theory. So with family systems theory, the family is a system made up of individuals, but it's a natural social system. So on family development theory, the family should be studied as a unit, not as a collection of individuals. So this is relatively similar. Now, again, under family systems theory, you'll see that there are changes in one part or component impact all other components in the system. And family development theory says that families pass through stages as the individuals in the family unit change, and individuals may also change due to the family's stage or transition. So there's reciprocity there, which again is similar, right? So family systems theory, changes in one part or component of the system impact all other components in the system. So something one individual does impacts the rest of the family. And that's similar to what family development theory says as well. But it goes on to say that, not only does the family as a whole pass through stages as the individuals in the family actually change, but the individuals may start to change due to the family's stage or transition, if that makes sense. So it could go either way. Now, again, on family systems theory, it identifies issues in the communication lines and doesn't label family members or issues as dysfunctional. Now, family development theory follows a family through the stages and identifies issues that may come about during transitions from one stage to the next. So this is where you see the difference in the two theories. Not only does family development theory have stages, which family systems theory does not, but family development theory follows the family through the stages, and it will actually identify issues that may occur due to the next stage. For example, one stage may be the marriage stage, and they'll start to look at what's going to happen when the family has children. What's going to happen when the mother goes back to work after the children. So it'll look at different things that could come from the next stage in the family's life. Whereas family systems theory looks at the lines of communication. So it would not label another family member as dysfunctional, but they may be part of a dysfunctional system. So it doesn't focus on the individual, it focuses more on the whole, but there are no stages in family systems theory. So while there are some similarities in the way they look at a family and the way the family is made up of individuals, but is a huge system, it's not just a collection of people, that is similar, but the rest of the theory and the way they look at things are pretty different. Now, to talk about some of the critiques of this theory, in the text, you'll see that it's stated that it appears as a model to assist with conceptualizing issues as opposed to an actual theory that can be tested. Excuse me for one moment. So this theory, it helps you see what's going on because it's more about the way people react or the way they communicate about things and talk about things. You can't really test it. It's not like there's going to be scientific data with that. So a lot of people say that it's more of a model and less of an actual theory that you could test and prove to be true. It's also very general. Some people using the theory may forget that it's a model for understanding what's happening, and they actually begin to think that the system is a reality. And then I also, in doing a little research, saw that found an article where they talked about how family therapists have sort of some negative feedback about the theory, because they feel that using systems theory doesn't address the individual's responsibility, and that we no longer deal with individuals, we only focus on the family, and they feel like that's a negative. That they're not maybe helping the person that needs help. They're just looking at the entire family. So that's sort of another way to look at it. I also have my references attached. I hope that everyone did enjoy this, and that it provided some good information about the family systems theory. I did enjoy doing the presentation. It was very interesting to go through this and work on the presentation and really delve into all of the concepts and within the theory and the terms, and to do the outside research as well, and to look at the all of the other articles that I could find. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon.